The gem files started somewhere around 1991, the same time when we joined the internet, and we have in the use of the Microsoft system of the words and spreadsheets, and spreadsheets become the huge amount of the first data we encounter and use in its full application by having our system set up, inventory, the color stone, the size, measurement, shape, and whatnot. And in between that time also, another technology in and between the early part of use of telex for the global communication and our use with the 6 IBM computers. And all this were expensive, including telex machine. And then we jump into the facsimile machines. When the fax machines first came up, I remember very, very well that in just less than 90 days, I have bought 4 machines in 4 locations. One in Wisconsin, one in Chicago, one in Valadares, my office in Brazil, and then one went into Ida Oberstein. It just so happened during my office, our use in Valadares, Minas Gerais, Brazil. That office have the comes and goes with my partners or the associate that been working with Hans Schwinn. Just funny that we have the Schwinn's family here in Lake Geneva, the Schwinn Bike Company, and Hans from Ida Oberstein is also an old timer, a former soldier during the Second World War. The linkage of the Brazil and with the Lebanese descendants in Teofilotoni, and the amount of German engaged in the gem trade from our town, Valadares, Teofilotoni, and eventually the huge south part of Brazil in the state of Rio Grande do Sul with the agates, and also with the biggest amount of amethyst. Another type of amethyst that is also very attractive, but usually all in smaller sizes. And after Rio Grande do Sul, I had my engagement investment with the Uruguay amethyst in Artigas, Uruguay, 10 hours away from my Brazilian city of Soledade. So on all this global trade, I never forgot when I bought my machine in Brazil, not being able to bring it back from the US. The first one I purchased cost me $3,000. Today you can pick up a fax machine anywhere for less than $200 if you still using fax machine. So technology-wise, from telex to IBM to fax machines to internet to the use of the Microsoft software, this continue to start to evolve. That was 1991. The world all just starting with our engagement of the basic data spreadsheets. And from that development into the Web 2.0, during that time when the first group of company to come to my face, I was 6 years ahead of Google. I was 6-7 years ahead of eBay, Yahoo. Remember AOL? We were the first one using the AOL email. And everybody kept asking me, Paul, you already mentioned about the Gemmfiles. Where are you? Where are we? I said, no, we're not ready yet. And with the time and delay, with all these developments, it's 33 years ago. In between that time, we have spent enough money to develop one of the technologies we think that can surpass the color diamond, to color ED, coloring the diamond, and find the color above and beyond the D rating. Today, the highest color in the terminology of GIA, Gemological Institute of America, and others, D is the top color. Well, but what about ABC? What we have discovered from one of the U.S. Naval Intelligence, but so is an open technology, by stabilizing the chamber pressure and light, we came very close to be able to find colors above and beyond the decolor. However, again, for the most part, people talk about our industry is an industry of the thieves. I can only think about if there's ever a role model of the gem trade, the stars can be the Alibaba and all the thieves, except our industry. We had hundreds, if not thousands, because of the envy, jealous. I have a partner from Milwaukee bought in for his own associates, and the whole deal was hampered. And my partner at that time is Kevin, living in California, up in the mountains in nearby Tahoe. We have zero regrets about what have started, what had developed, what came very close to get funding, and then eventually was totally hampered. We had taken the UGTS, Universal Gem Trade System, into at that time to Bangkok, to Thailand, very much engaged with one of the known gem houses, eventually Gem Exchange, and their own laboratory called the AIGS, Asian Institute of Gemological Science, involving the family of Mr. Ho, Sr., and then his son Henry Ho, and his younger brother, his son T. Ho, we're engaged in a very amicable way without any claim or threats to become the industry first, to be the idea, the megalomaniacs, in our trade, you can find it everywhere. Everybody can circumvent, can bypass. And I personally, in my development of the amethyst, just in the amethyst alone, but because my personal growth, our personal development, we have indirectly creating an impact of the industry once handled by the Germans. I highlighting Hans Schwind, that part of the linkage, because Hans Schwind was very much involving in the best looking amethyst. In the southern part of Brazil, the southern part of the amethyst is not big, and the biggest stones become very costly. Versus in our side, from Minas Gerais, from Bahia, Brejinha is the name of the region, already have the good size amethyst. Good size, I'm talking about 17, 18 carats, 15 carats, 12, 20, 30, 40. We have one stone we had 200 carats. Those were found north of our town, Valadares and Teofilotoni. And the price was commanded very, very strongly. Strong meaning they are exporting out of Brazil at $5 per carat. But what happens, this is a natural phenomenon. You will see the pictures eventually. Fifi, one of my first person, I bought my stone on the streets with Fifi, exchange with our cameras and whatnot. And Fifi and his group, as he's a garimpeiro, just so happened he had ventured north into the state of Pará, in a region called Marabá. And that particular era, the size of the amethyst and the color, I call it from 12 karat and bigger, I could have reached them for $200 per kilo. A little bit of a quantitative measure so you can understand. 1 kilogram equal to 5,000 carats. 1 gram, 5 carats. As a rule of thumb, very quickly, rule of thumb, if I pay $200 a kilo, that is divided 1,000, is 20 cents a carat for my amethyst. Then you add on the cutting cost, the rest of the transport cost, whatever. I could have at that time producing amethyst, not the best, not the worst, an average at 50 cents a carat. And to bring it back to the US, to do the shows, the gem shows, to deliver to stores and ship to the different stores, I can always make $1 or $2 per carat, and 300%. If you're counting on 50 cents, is 6 times, 600%. Nevertheless, let me tell you the natural phenomenon of the discovery of the stone of amethyst from Marabá, Pará. Thank you, Fifi. I managed to have purchased consecutively in 6 months to 9 months of one of the major buyers hoarding the quantity of the amethyst coming out of the Cerro Pará in the Amazons, with the top color equal to Brasílias from Bahia, which is controlled by the Germans. And I paid merely $1 per carat. And subsequently, by carrying the 50,000 carats to Hong Kong, paying $1 per carat, with the loan from the bank at $400,000, I managed in that weekend with the presentation in Hong Kong, I recovered all my cash plus the rest left over the merchandise I left as consignment sales by the Hong Kong Chinese. What I'm trying to tell you, the economics of the Brasília amethyst was overpowered, but by no one but me. In fact, I have approached Han Schwinn and asked him, look at the color of the amethyst I have here on my hand. Look at the color amethyst you have on the other hand. You are selling those at $5. Well, let me ask you this. Will your German partners will consider my parcel for $3 a carat? As I said. And he looked at it. Well, I'm not sure. But what I'm trying to bring this into the discussion, the events that are changing hands, the technology that are changing hands. Okay? Very simple. Today, as I'm talking to you, 5 years ago during COVID, I have been buying the best of the tourmalines, 30% below the Brazilian market value, by direct buying pictures being offered. I'll aware, Facebook. But then I say, oh, wait a minute. No discussion of price, and then come to the private messenger. From the private message, we talk about price. I was able to buy stones from Afghanistan, whom I have met before in Brazil and then in Bangkok and in China, delivered to Peshawar, Pakistan border. And then I said, if you can deliver to Bangkok, I can have your money paid. More than that, this been going on for 6 months to a year. A tourmaline, beautiful green chrome color, we call chrome, it's not really the chrome base, cost me $100 a carat, 20 carat stones in Brazil. I can bought it for $70. With the stone delivered first to Bangkok, and from Bangkok, with my network, friends, pals, delivered from Bangkok to Hong Kong. And from Hong Kong to Shenzhen, from Shenzhen shipped directly to Beijing. I basically sold this stone directly from Peshawar to Bangkok to Hong Kong, eventually Shenzhen to Beijing. I'm sitting in North America and making money on a daily basis. The largest parcel I bought is $40,000. By the time the stone got to Bangkok, now direct to Shenzhen, I make $25,000 sitting right at home. If this is not a display of the fanning out of the last 45 years of technology, and this is how I describe when people from the outside tell me again, Paul, what is the Gemmfiles? Well, the Gemmfiles, basically, what I'm doing is a new infrastructure has to be carried from the day of Ma and Pa, 14 garimpeiros in the rough, now to the global zone, in the use of the full spectrum of the technology today. However, that's a very crucial element. I think most of my stone dealer friends understand. It has always been a very tight-lipped, quiet business. And what I have done in amethyst alone, I impacted the German handling the stone from Brasília. But nevertheless, none of them get wiped out. They continue. because they have a different zone, different area. Europe, the stone may go to Germany, recut. And by the margin they have, they can service the stone no less than, but eventually what I do in China, in Bangkok, I recut many of the chip stones, the stones poorly cut from India or from Sri Lanka. Because when I can buy those stones in the open show for less than 20 cents, 30 cents a carat, I have all those stones recut. In fact, much easier when I send this to the cubic sconia cutters in China. I save myself much more money. Once the stone is calibrated to fit in the mounting, they may not be the black belt or the quality of the black belt of a karate fighter, but they were in and around the brown belt or lighter color. But they fit. The cutting, lower quality, going to the silver. The higher quality, we go to the medium, middle-class American, Montgomery Ward Sears, and the high end, we go to a higher caliber. So all this classification, where I think I may have impacted the German control of the amethyst price, I may not have, because they continue on. They may not like what I have purchased. And that particular 1 year of the good amethyst, top of the color scale, had given me my first million profit just in amethyst. But eventually, when I started the amethyst development with the southern part of Brazil, with the Rio Grande do Sul, the stone from Iraí, the stone from the Uruguay region, there were minor conflicting situations with the German stronghold. Well, but then after myself being the first Asian or first Brazilian-raised English-speaking Chinese, and then the other future Asian starting to come from Bangkok, from Hong Kong, some had made it, some had never made it, some had started it, never finished it, because it is still a very complicated issue about getting the stones. I prep my stones, and the preparation of my gemstones become another efficiency. The stone come up from the raw. We can just grind it down to a shape and a form ready to be faceted. This before faceting called preforming. The stone in the south were all hammered. It is a traditional train guided by the Germans. And the small hammer, the hammering had taken the wedge very clean, so the cutters don't have to worry about the clarity to see the inside and the zones of the stone. But that's just part of the technology. But just in the amethyst alone, what I've done in that region, in that less than 10 years, I built myself between $1 to $2 million profit just by moving forward, just into Hong Kong and then into China. And then back, manufacturing mounted back to the US. Hong Kong, China, Thailand, Chiang Mai, all two regions had serviced much of my work. This is a way, you may call it, oh, you're smart, you are, nothing to do with smart. It's discipline and to be carried on effectively. The timing of the logistics, how many years I used post office, but then how many years I used Federal Express. If I'm the first one starting Lake Geneva, I don't think many people can say they were number 2 and number 3. Nevertheless, the UPS shipment, the FedEx, the whole logistics. When I use logistics from FedEx directly into Miami, that is how I clear most of my goods. I flew with the goods, 2 suitcases, 40 kilos, pre-shaped, pre-formed, but a point entry, I have my broker, along with the Federal Express agent. We clear customs by document. The stones never came into the US because they were transshipped all to Hong Kong, and from Hong Kong to Bangkok to Chiang Mai and to mainland China and Sri Lanka for a while that I was still commending. I want to cut in 4 regions so I can see the cutting skills and speed and time and delivery and also honesty, because they do switch stones. So people say, why don't you just concentrate in 1 or 2? No, but I'm just testing the honesty of the Sri Lankans. They always give me the best weight conversion, more than 20%. But the stones were cut very chubby, so to speak, and they don't fit well in the manufacturing calibrated size mountings. And then the Koreans were very good, but I have lost weight. And the most honest, most persistent cutting was the German train group up in Chiang Mai, and running by a very nice Christian family, which I become very close with. And there will be other story to be told about the sinisters of war and the situation between the border in Burma and Thailand and India. But that's another story. That's part of my cultural anthropological comment. The efficiency, in order to achieve such efficiency, I think that's a huge factor involving, which I have developed, you will see, called the 4 T's. Total transparency, total efficiency, total accountability, and total integrity. Now, I say that I have many colleagues, many competitions. If I have structured me and my team and my partners in this framework, only with the transparency today, the industry that we are in, including the diamonds, including the people and the high powers, the biggest diamond producers, used to be known South Africa. We produce tremendous amount of diamond in Brazil, but not in a structural way. In fact, the first Brazilian major mine called Tijuca, I was very much engaged in between the time when the Chinese from Shanghai, Hong Kong, eventually from Sao Paulo, make the second round or third round of purchase of the Tijuca mine in Diamantina. I am still today creating diamond purchases with the natives. It's being structured. The Cinta Largas in Rondonia by the Roosevelt reservation. The Roosevelt reservation was created by Teddy Roosevelt of his adventure into the Amazon. And the Roosevelt reservation is located on the state called Rondonia, R-O-N-D-O-N-I-A. It was the colonel who followed Teddy Roosevelt, guided him through the jungle. It's called the Rondon, R-O-N-D-O-N. Part of my skill, or maybe my dexterity involving in the gem trade, first is my first 5 languages, including Spanish by the border. In a fronteriza, we call it, instead we call the alfândega in Portuguese, they call it aduanera. The language of what I have, and working around the regions in Brazil, making purchases and making negotiations, have all boiled down to the efficiency is to make it transparent. But then you would say, how can that be transparent? Okay, how can what have affected by not participating in any shenanigans? Very simply, I've helped many ethnic Jewish Russians want to bring money into the U.S. in a legal manner, not laundering by any wrongful means. Or I direct them to Brazil to buy $1 to $2 million worth of topaz, and I just earned the commission of the gathering of the goods under my office, and then ship to the U.S. in knowing that they will sell those topaz at 90 cents to the other vendors in New York on the East Coast, just to get their money in the U.S. to establish their other enterprises. And this is very much in the open. Another angle to look at how the Australian diamond come to the market, how the Australian handling the colored diamonds by letting go their white diamonds, making contract smaller diamonds, sell to India, so they can concentrate on the management and the focus of the marketing of colored diamonds. Well, will that diamond have those diamonds impacted De Beers operations? Oppenheimer, directly, indirectly, the Rothschilds' money empire, and then the arrival with the Russian diamonds And the Canadian diamonds, Yellow Knives in northwest part of Canada. I think in all that we're handling in our own preparations and organization, unless you are transparent, you have no accountability, you have no accuracy, including accounting, including the taxation part of the deals. So in what I see, the way I created the Gemmfiles, without overemphasizing, you can look at the inserts in here, which is still ongoing. And now I'm at the time. Why have I waited all this time from the system of the early IBM, the IBM machine to Microsoft softwares to the Web 2.0 only just about 10 years ago, when one of my role models to look at the post Web 2.0 coming into the area I just mentioned, just one name, blockchain. The blockchain system, by my count, is the ultimate system that I could verify, authenticate from point 1 to point B, and from 1 to 2, point A to point B, and from point B onward. Every system that we exchanged can be authenticated, verified, the origin of the goods, the person who have taken care of it, how they process it, plus the other verification process. The Gem Labs. Why do there got to be impact? There got to be new paradigm shift also. Why do we only focusing reading the diamond at 10 power to determine it's flawless? Why don't we maximize the inclusions and change the term into crystal formation of the stone? Let's using the crystal form instead of inclusion to become the identification, the DNA of that particular stone. If you crank an amethyst 10 power, you don't see hardly any inclusion. But if you crank that into a 30, 40, 50 power and guide it with the north, south, east, west plane, you can do 4 directions. You can do, the table. You can do the belly cut of the stone. In a simple linguistic terms, because the industry is often, like most industry, is based on the profit motive. And for those who have seized and control the name, the nomenclatures, the terminology, the clarity, the cut and whatnot, they generally do not like any alternatives. But today, the technology, the incoming technology, we can changing all that. And this, I'm just mentioning a very small segment of it's no longer a paradigm change. This is a cultural zone and technological change that when we all can be buying with a certain comfort. I buy well because I do not want my client to get a questionable stones. I think ethics coming into it, professionalism coming into it. If we do not do any of the development to enrich and enhance our professionalism, then our business is doomed. Technology today, and as I put the Gemmfile, the various clusters, again, think about cultural zones, highlighted here. I'm no longer have such a fear that somebody will circumvent and come into me, even with all the trademarks or the patent or the registry. Like Huawei, I have done more than 50 trademarking and of the terminologies, okay, terminologies that I use. But I think we're coming to a point that I'm awaiting is to see the interactive AI. Do I want to do it here in the United States? Do I want to do it in Europe? And also, I am very much in link with the teams and the professionals in China with the AI. And right now, it's just using as a metaphor as a cook and a chef. I have all the ingredients on my wok. I'm just ready for the right moment to have them all stir fried and cooked into a meal that everybody can follow. Imagine if I can conduct business at home here and moving $30,000 of gemstones, making $20,000. Today, with the same amount of $30,000, I make only 20% because I have less gamble. I have less risk. So the Gemmfile today, I can open up to the world, and once this system with the Gemboard total exchange by images, by measure, by authentication, by the verification of the operators of the stones, when it comes to necessary, a gemological lab can do the same. And when that happens, and all the variables is what taken me 31 years to develop. And this is no longer a secret. I have people proposing to buy my system now at 1%. At what value? 1% of 350 billion. But I have already interfaced the 350 billions of the gemstones, diamonds, before including jewelry. The jewelry may be partial in it, but we're talking about now with the development I have with the 3,000 Brazilian mines of the granite, marble, and the higher grade of granite is called quartzite. The 3,000 mines in Brazil, only 10% are in operation. Out of the 10%, maybe 20% are profitable. In seeing the situation now in China, the tight space, the pollution, the powder, the dust, and I'm already seeing and talking to move this industry back to Brazil with the temporary failure of the Brazilian extraction of the pre-salt petroleum. Entire shoreline between Rio and Espírito Santo that can be totally converting into processing of this decorative stone, quartzite, granite, marbles, and with the specific logistic delivery from Brazil into Middle East, into eventually Caribbeans, the potential, if it ever happened with the Canal Zone, with Nicaragua. I know that's extremely political, extremely volatile, but if Panama, with the traffic building to 11 days delayed to cross and not allowing the big container ships from China or the size of aircraft carrier, there's got to be alternatives. I have studied the dry canal zone in Guatemala, which has cost 10 billion, about 450 kilometers. I have studied Colombia dry canal, just out of my own curiosity, and also the potential of the 7 open ports in Argentina, where it's 21 days voyage from the Pacific coast in Latin America to China. It's only 21 days. So, in short, in the field that I have created the Gemmfile system, many of my colleagues will think, Paul, you're not being smart. You're 76 years old. It doesn't matter. I can be gone, but the system and the progress, the integrity of the system of the Gemmfiles has to be intact. And so I have just got offers say, how about 1% of 500 billion as you estimated to 5 billion? But why should I be selling out if the next interface is just the integration of the system and my learning of AI? 90 days, 6 months, a year. I have waited this far. I have more time. And so I hope in this sharing openly about Gemmfiles and its application to the industry, what I'll be most delighted, even I saw the system, I can still create a different free zones, like in Zhuhai, China, like in the middle of Minas, we can create a free zone, just having all the authentication, qualification, and let the vendors prepay government. We do not need funding from the government. The industry can create their own transition, because by the volume, by the speed, by the execution, from private jets, from security companies, we can go anywhere. So you have a free zone in the Middle East, you have a free zone in China, three free zones in China, in Hainan, in Macau, Hong Kong, in northern part of Shanghai. I think the industry itself also has to wake up. And instead of protecting our little turfs, it's time to share. Because I have no problem to say if I can make 1% a year in the $500 billion transaction around the world, 0.5%, that's still a very handsome earning. So I'm using this occasion to talk about the industry. And in the next segment, I'm preparing to do about 3 to 6 hours in half-an-hour segments to discuss the development of the Gemmfiles and open up to the trader market. In the meantime, I want to thank so many of my friends asking me to do this fala, and I will try to do another segment in Portuguese, also in Cantonese, as I have discovered from the other tapes. In each language, there are some little creative forces coming out of me. I thank you, and I hope I get some feedback from you. Email me, call me, and see what else can be developed for the better of the industry and for the industry in a collective sense. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Paul Yi. This is May 4th, 2024. As of this year, since February, Chinese New Year, I was determined to starting to use the sort of recording video and in part documenting and also telling my personal story, history, with a couple various components. First of all, I was a student major in psychology with my master's degree in counseling psychology, 74, and then worked as a professional psychologist on college campuses until 1977. And 45 years later, I'm relinked myself from that segment of the study of psychology, counseling psychology in particular, as I have developed a system called the 3 C's. The first C is called the cultural sphere, where people interact, student, faculty, and likewise in any business. The cultural sphere has a lot of meaning to me, and how I develop this cultural spheres is based on my cross-cultural experience ever since I was born in China, raised in partially Macau, then Brazil and the US. But let me get back to the first link first of the counseling psychology and the 3 C's which I developed. Again, mentioned cultural sphere, and then comes this first part, the communication dynamics. And then the complementary part is called the communication analytica, which is basically the analysis of the communication dynamics between myself and my students, giving a very interesting passage by making their engagement in college and the performances with improvements, and the analytica become a very well-used metric. But then again, I will explain how I departed from education in 77, that came into the business and the commerce, linking much with Brazil's minerals and gemstones until today. And in this last 2 years, the conversion of the 3 C's becoming potentially a global study of psychology based on communications and culture is being renamed to the psychology round and square. So this is the hubbing my cross-cultural life from childhood music and sound to languages. And then the second hub is the two educational link since 1974, 77, and then now into Psychology Round and Square. And the other segment post of the Psychology Round and Square that link to the concern about overall import psychology, import cultural anthropology. Another sphere talk about where the Psychology Round and Square, by linking the cultural groups from the U.S., Brazil, and China. Now we're talking about the potential, the future of a consynchological civilization. But that, to give you these 5 variables, I think I will continue to tell in this segment of my business, linking directly with the system of the gem trade. It is, I think it will be of great interest to my current friends, pals, business colleagues, as well as what the connectivity between the Ma and Pa operation from day one, 1977, to today's digital AI, the whole atmosphere, what I call the big data, big cloud. In the big data and big cloud, look at the spheric kind of thing. Then we have the AI, we have the Internet of Things, all will be a part of the technological components that will be of value to the system I also have started 30-some years ago, called the Gemmfiles, Gemmn with double M and files.